Greetings, gentlemen. This is OTR Ogre and Corgi. And little MGTOW moment here. Like, link, and subscribe. Let's talk about envy versus excellence. I've heard it said over the years of people, they'll sit there and be like, well, these jocks back in the day, oh man, they used to beat us up and stuff. And yeah, look, where are they now? And that's usually the line I hear from people. Where are these people now? Oh, they're working at a parts store or some crap job back where I grew up, and that's just subjective, really. I mean, I'd argue you should aim for something better than that, because you got a family to feed, but, you know, they got a little bit of a gut, and, like, where are they now? Like, time can be the great equalizer to some degree. Like, and don't think that the nerd people back in the day, like, some jocks are jerks and they'll beat people up. Some jocks are just doing their thing and playing ball, you know, if they're good people. But, how many of those, like, average, geeky nerd people, you know, like some nerds that went and got educated and got, you know, really high degrees. But how many of these average, just, you know, average people or geeks, just ended up meeting some person and partying and fucking, and next thing you know, they were just as stuck in a situation as the jocks. So people will sit there and tell me this line where the jocks, the best years of their life are when they're young, as where the nerd, the best years of their life are after they get out of college. You know, they get the education, the job, and the money. But analyze this for a second. Do you think either one of these people are really a superior man? You could argue there's superior qualities potentially in both the nerd and the jock. And then there's the mediocre masses as well. You know, you could just, like, mediocre people are inferior to begin with. But the jock was willing to put the extra time and effort into their body back in the day, or at least restrain themselves from what they eat and how they spend their time to be, at least at that point in their life, this physical specimen that they were. And for that, yeah, there was a lot of freedom pussy back in the day. The nerd was willing to put the effort into their mind, and then eventually ends up having the long-term sort of win. And he ends up making so much money that now these women show up. But really, with the jock, it's the physical specimen that the women wanted, and with the nerd, it was the money. I mean, like, great. So now you're the nerd is this, you know, super simp, the omega beta. I mean, sure, that nerd's probably better to provide, but under a current structure of marriage and whatnot, honestly, he's just even more fucked than the jock to some degree. But this is assuming that, you know, each individual, like, can you be a nerd who works out in high school, who actually, you know, physically works out, it's good shape? Just because you're into, you know, computers and gaming and stuff doesn't mean you're a fucking, you know, a fat neckbeard. You know, and like, well, look, I'm a fat guy, so I'm not judging. But I'm just saying, there's certain things about it. Like, when you're enviously looking at someone who had excellence in the past, and your victory is, now look at them. What type of fucking victory is that? I'd argue this is a lot of the socialist level thinking. The objective is to get people to not achieve excellence. They don't want you to achieve excellence. They just want to know that you see someone else getting what you perceive to be their comeuppance. But what victory is that really for you? You tore something down, potentially. Look, well, you didn't even tear it down. You were just happy to see it be tore down of someone else's building. You know, and so that's your alleged victory. No, it's not a victory. You're still just as where fucked you were as the day before. Your envy and your hatred for those that were better than you didn't actually really take you much of anywhere. Maybe if you had enough hatred or something. I don't want to go with a Naruto fucking Sasuke moment. You need more of it. You build yourself up to be great. Maybe you do become great. But generally, that's not what most people do. And I'd argue, even, like I said, the jock is wanted for what he does, so he's kind of like, he's considered an alpha, but he's still a fucking simp in my mind. And the fucking, the beta provider now becomes the ultimate provider, but he's clearly a simp to some degree. You have to aim for your own personal excellence. You know, like, if you want to see the world respecting you, you want to play the world's game, then you have to do things the world wants to see. You have to better yourself. One way or another, you have to become bigger, stronger, more intelligent. Save your money. You know, hell, fuck, do some meditation, some yoga and shit. You know? That way you can, when at the end of the day, You're an improved man. You're an improved, let's say an improved product. You weren't just some rough material. You're now a finished product. But I would even ask yourself, who are you doing this for? I should say aim for excellence as a normal thing. You know, try to be the best at whatever you're doing when you're doing it. That way, you know, I just think it's a better way to live. That's just my opinion. But at a certain point, you have to decide how much of this you're really doing for you. And maybe that validation really is just for you. Like, now people want me, now people love me, you know, like, still it comes back most of the time to they love your physicality and they love your fucking, your money. And that's the funny thing about it. For all the jocks that you saw fall from grace, well, how many of those guys actually went out and got an education? Or they got a trade, and now they've got a successful business, and they still have their body because they take care of themselves. So what you're looking at there is a silver fox. You know, they never bring up those guys. Now the question is, even if you weren't much in the past, with some minor changes, you know, I hate to say this because I'm not a huge man of fashion, but if you desire such things, some fashion changes, you work out a bit more, you're fit, you're lean, and mentally become a better person. If you do these things, the low man can become a great man. But it comes down to not being envious of what the other man has, but becoming the aim for excellence for what you could become. And I put this to all different levels. I'm a trucker now. I'm overweight and whatnot, so I have my issues. But for instance, I'm aiming probably down the road to buy my own truck. I have the money to do it. You know, but the giggy of it is that I'd like to have enough knowledge to be able to do it right the first time. And people say, well, why go out of your way to buy a truck? Well, that way I can have more time. Maybe have 3-4 months of the year where I don't drive. If the freight rates are shit, I don't drive. So you can aim for different levels of excellence in your life to the point where you're like, I've done everything I can do at this point. Now I need to find what is the next level. So I move on to the next level of my life, aiming for excellence now in this new way of being. So I don't know. I've kind of rambled, but avoid envy and aim for excellence. Y'all have a good one.